In this video, we're going to look at some fruit and vegetable ideas for what you can grow in the shady corners in your garden. So if you have a few shady places in your garden, and especially if you're limited to a small growing space, then you might want to be looking at how you can maximize and increase the productivity. Which reminds me, I created a video recently outlining 10 ways to make your vegetable garden more productive this season, so you might be interested in watching that. But I wanted to delve deeper into looking specifically at shade, because almost every single vegetable garden will have some sort of partial shade. So just a rule of thumb, especially for you beginner vegetable gardeners, the least tolerant family to shade is the squash family. However, the most tolerant kind of family and area of vegetables are leafy greens. So you want to look at how you can grow leafy greens in partial shade. What I'm going to do is just to outline 5 both fruit and vegetables that we have grown in partial shade, just to give you a few ideas, and there'll be a full list down below in the video description. And at the end of the video, I want to outline a few key points about growing food in shade. So the first plant that you can grow in partial shade is Swiss chard, which is also known as rainbow chard and perpetual spinach. Now this, in fact, is my favourite vegetable, firstly because it just tastes really good, but also it's something you don't really find on supermarket shelves because it has a really short shelf life. So the thing about Swiss chard is that it's very productive, and you don't actually need to grow a lot of it to get a lot of harvest. And I'm going to be doing a video very soon about how to grow Swiss chard. But it's just a fantastic vegetable. It adds a bit of colour as well into a shady spot. And something else which adds a bit of colour is rhubarb and also red currants. So rhubarb, you know the idea behind forcing rhubarb? There they have absolutely no sunlight at all, so that means that they can be ideal to put in partial shade. And my favourite soft fruit for growing in shade are red currants. Now you might not get the same amount of productivity as you would in a full sunny position, and from my experience the berries seem to be bigger than the ones that are in full sunlight, so that's quite interesting, and they're very easy to grow, easy to propagate. And also the thing about rhubarb and also red currants is that they are perennial, so you don't need to worry every year about replanting and crop rotation. All you need to worry about maybe is a little bit of maintenance, more on the pruning side. Now another leafy green that you can grow in partial shade is lettuce. Now I love lettuce because it's so simple, they're great for salads, they grow really quickly, and if you grow cut and come again varieties of lettuce, then again you're just increasing the productivity of the area of shade that you're growing in. So look at lettuce. Now the final vegetable that I wanted to put into this mix is kale, which also is a leafy green in a way, and it's also a brassica. Now I wanted to put this in the list mainly because it's a brassica and it's hardy, and compared to all the other things that I've talked about where you harvest them either during the spring or summer, the thing about kale is that it means that you can have a fresh supply of greens throughout the winter months. So remember, if you want the full list of fruits and vegetables that you can grow in partial shade, then I have that down below in the video description, so check that out and see what you want to grow in your garden. Now just something I really want to outline quickly before I go to the final part of this video is, you would have thought that you can't grow tomatoes in a shady place because you say, they want 8 to 10 hours of full sunlight a day. But I recommend you check out One Yard Revolution's video about this, just to see something quite interesting, and I'll leave it at that. Now the final thing I want to look over are just 3 really quick things, like 3 considerations when growing in partial shade. So the first consideration you need to make when growing in shade is just to remember that you don't need to water it as much. Just keeping things basic. Obviously the sun isn't hitting the ground, so there's less evaporation, so you don't need to worry as much about watering, and that's a great benefit about growing in shade. Now another thing is, this is for you guys who live in a hot climate. I really think that every vegetable garden should have some sort of shade, because looking especially in permaculture where you're growing in hot arid climates, where if you create shade you can then create cool almost channels which are cooling the vegetable garden, and then you can begin to expand the type of fruit and vegetables that you can grow. So if you don't currently have shade and you live in a hot place, then I recommend you do have a shady place just to, you know, change the microclimate a bit and make it a bit cooler. And the final consideration is actually quite a fun one, but that is just to experiment. The great thing about growing your own food is that the only limit is almost your creativity, and there's no harm in experimenting, trying out different things, and you might discover something that shouldn't work but does actually work. So I hope you found this video interesting. If you have any further comments or questions to do with growing in partial shade or even just general fruit and vegetable growing, then you can either ask me on Snapchat or down below in the comments description. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Goodbye.